maybe not.
Playoffs for natural gas for free power.
Okay.
Hate to interrupt y'all there.
No, wait. Talking about stuff I've talked for the last 5 minutes, and I don't know that I know any more than I did when I started.
That's on record now.
Sounds like it's my problem.
November 25, 2 p.m. Call this meeting to order. Need approval of the minute.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next, any public comment? Okay. Business portion, revenue and expense update.
Okay. October non-property tax revenue was slightly more than expected. Local option sales tax were about $50,000 more than the same period last year, and state sales taxes were about $17,000 more than the last year in the same period. Hotel motel tax continues to lag. It was $5,000 less in October than it was in the previous October, and a total of $66,000 less than the same time last year. Fiscal year 26 non-property tax revenue averaged about 0.4% more than the same period in the previous year. We have collected $55,000 more in non-property tax revenue than we had at the same time last year. It was interesting to note when I was reading that report this morning, the State Funding Board expects the State General Fund to continue growing slowly at a range from 0.72 to about 1.32% a year. The last several years, that number has been between 2 and 4, if you're keeping up. And so some of that is reflected in local finance. It's not exactly the same, but it was an interesting data point. Property tax collection has caught up to last year. You know, the last time we met, it was a vast difference, mainly because the tax notices went out a little later. We've collected about $631,000 more in property tax than at the same approximate time last year. There's more than $30 million left in property tax to collect for the fiscal year 25 levy. And year-to-date general fund operating expenses are slightly over budgeted amounts overall. After 4 months, you should be able to expect this to be about 33.3%, but we find that operating expenses are at about 35.1% of the budgeted amounts. Some of this is due to a third payroll in October. We have 26 payrolls, and occasionally you get a third one in that month. We also paid our property and liability insurance to Public Entity Partners, which is a one-time big chunk. And so I would expect that number probably to still be above average next month, but to be closer to the average than it is right now. So that's what I got, Frank.
Okay, any questions or comments?
Any other big items that are popping off the sheet or the expenses?
We are looking at some of our health and benefit lines that if you want me to send you a detail of this sheet that I've given you, please just send me an email and I'll send you. It's many more pages than that, and so some of those numbers are running hot. It partly is based on the estimate, and I think it's partly based on where certain employees were placed in the budget.
Okay.
But we're going to be talking to risk management and to HR about making sure that's accounted for. So you'll probably end up with a budget amendment in some of those. I'm trying to think of anything else that's sticking up in my brain, but that's the only one that sticks out right now.
Anything concern you?
Oh, lots of things concern me.
Well, let's hear some.
No. Except for, except for just funding overall. I'm not overly concerned about any of this at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Other questions? Nathan?
Thank you, Nate.
Budget amendments. Proposed budget amendment number 39, recognize and appropriate $1.5 million for Tennessee ECD Fast Track Grant.
Right, this is just an absolute pass-through for the city. We got it and we wired it out within 3 days, which is what the grant requires. It's part of the ECD's Fast Track program for new industry. You guys may remember when 6K came, they're doing a $30 million investment or something like that. They've actually, I think, added to it since they've been here. They get periodic grant payments. This may be the last one, I think. But it's just a pass-through to the city, but we need to recognize it and account for it.
That's one question I had. It looked like the total grant was 1.75 million. And so to date, I guess we're looking at a reimbursement of 1.55. So we've got a little bit more.
I need to go back and see if we reimbursed them something before this. That, I had the same question, and it was not immediately obvious to me.
Also curious, because 6K is in the county. I'm curious why this would come through the city.
I can't answer that.
Do we have any reporting requirements that we're responsible for?
We don't on this, except to report that we sent them the money when we were supposed to.
Okay. They're the official grant.
ECD's collecting the metrics that they need to make sure they're still complying with the grant.
Okay.
So, and this came through the IDB. I mean, the IDB does all the legwork on this. It's just, it has to go through municipal government.
Okay. Thorough documentation.
Did we have a motion
Well,
on
it's
that one?
showing,
Not yet.
it's showing on this document here that there's an ending grant balance of that difference.
Okay.
And this was as of 10/1,
So we may end up having another disbursement at some point.
196,000 or something.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, it looks like all this was purchased back to a year or two ago, right?
Yeah.
And we've got a couple of these fast track grants. One of them, Toyota, has got one. And it shows up, and very often we have to spend a little time trying to figure out why they sent us this big sum of money.
Yeah.
I mean, because ECD they don't even say, it's just this chunk of money shows up. And
And so we turn around and write a check directly back to?
generally speaking, we wire it, but yes, sir.
Okay, effectively.
Right.
Okay.
Move we approve.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approved. Next, we have proposed budget amendment number 40 to recognize and appropriate $1.5 million for OCJP Violent Crime Intervention Fund Grant.
We were unsure if we would get they call this VCIF, is what you hear about it referred to. Mostly, we were unsure if there would be a round in fiscal year '26, but there is in fact a round of VCIF funding, and we've been awarded this. Now, when I spoke with them earlier, late last week, they were still trying to figure out which portions of this, I mean, what they would actually spend the grant on. And generally, we don't bring a budget amendment to you till we get a signed grant contract. But I mean, we're going to get the money. It's just what they spend it on is what the grant contract's going to be. I don't know, is there anybody from the police here today? They said they might send somebody. So, as I understand it, they're going to use these funds primarily to make some purchases that they would be making anyway. And
Yeah, this grant purpose here says new tasers, body cameras, camera trailers, improvements to the ammunition unit, so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's budgeted this year. Some of it, I think, maybe have been in a multi-year plan, but I think this is replacing regular expenses.
Question on this.
Yeah.
A number of these items are in the debt service package, right? Is there a possibility to use these dollars rather than going out and borrowing it? Since we didn't know this was coming, we've got it now. Can we look at taking these funds at the police department's request to fund items that possibly would have been funded through the debt service?
I want to speak to this, and then if Ron wants to say something. First of all, a lot of this is multi-year replacement stuff,
Right,
and so they're gonna continue to need these items and continue to spend this money.
right,
Second, yes, there's been some discussion of that,
okay,
okay?
yeah.
Not sure exactly which parts, but,
Well, that's where, looking at some of the items that we're including in debt service are like 7-year life items. These are those, tasers, body cameras, bulletproof vests, so on and so forth. They are replacement items. Would love to see those in an operating budget rather than a capital budget, especially if we're going on a 30-year note. That would be the interest to me, is can we use these grant funds to fund some of that recurring expense for this next fiscal year or beyond?
right.
Rather than going out and borrowing for it. Does that seem plausible?
Well, yeah, I don't know.
What do we need to do to further this discussion?
I had hoped, I had sent a message to Chief Corley last week, and I'd hoped he would be here, not only to talk about another item on your agenda, but
Yeah.
but could address this, and it's very possible he got tied up somewhere, so
Okay.
we can certainly have that conversation now.
It seems kind of redundant at this point. If we're buying vests and cameras and stuff with bond dollars versus funding them with this seems a more appropriate way to do that.
And a lot of it would just depend upon their current need and how much they can get from this, all
Yeah.
that as well.
Because that could further reduce that need for dollars from borrowing.
Or you could potentially address something that scored higher.
Possibly. It could address other things that, yes, that are of greater need.
Right.
I'm not saying, these are of course of great need, because you've got people that are onboarding and they have to have a body camera and they gotta have a vest. Or you've gotta replace those, I think it's 5 years, they've gotta replace those. Or if the guy loses a bunch of weight, I mean, there's reasons for it.
So will those conversations happen, or do we need to kind of drive that conversation?
We can have some of those conversations. We started some of that already, but I wish I'd had more clarity on that to give you now, but I don't.
I mean, and these are, we've got ballistic vests and helmets, and these are tens of thousands of dollars, these aren't big bucket items, which I don't know how we would spend $1.5 million. We could outfit the whole department over. And maybe that's the intent. It looks to me like we've got maybe $100,000 to $200,000 in that bond issuance that checks the boxes of what's listed in this. Is this, now you said typically you gotta, like, you feel like you're gonna get this.
Yeah, we've got an award letter,
You've got an award letter.
and I think there's a copy of it in your packet.
Okay.
Our fairly new grant policy says we generally don't bring budget amendments till we get a grant contract, but we did it anyway, so.
Well, with that said, should we table this, come back when we have a plan of what we're gonna exactly address it on? Or is there an urgency to getting this done now?
There is a timeline on when the contract comes in and when it has to be signed.
Okay.
But I don't know what that timeline is. The fact is, in this case, you were going to accept this $1.5 million.
Sure, yeah.
And we are going to appropriate it. And so beyond that, I mean, I don't see a reason to delay this. We can certainly have a conversation about what this might offset in some other places, but
Nathan, you could always plan to have police present with that second,
Sure, that's a good point.
have them here for that.
Do we have a policy about grants, or the pecking order of if we budget things like with a bond versus a windfall of 1.5 million, that it should offset budgeted items and,
generally speaking, they don't like for you to take grants to offset budgeted items, like, not for things like this. In this case, it is, I mean, it's gonna be able to offset some equipment that we would have to otherwise buy.
exactly.
We don't have an internal policy on that I'm aware of. So, but if you can find a grant that'll offset an expense, those are the ones that we want,
Sure, yeah.
so.
Well, could we request to have, police here next meeting? And that way we can have those discussions about what they intend to use it on and what we can potentially reduce.
So you make a motion table?
No, I make a motion to approve with, the police coming and presenting prior to second reading on this.
Second.
Motion and second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Wonderful. Next, proposed, Johnny, we're on budget amendments and the third one.
Okay.
Proposed budget amendment number 46 to reallocate 89,396.09 for police patrol vehicle upfitting.
So we have several new police patrol vehicles that need, and some of them need some additional upfits or outfitting. They call them upfitting, but they're outfitting a police car. We paid a deposit on this some time ago, and this is the balance of the work. These funds will be reimbursed out of, or they plan to reimburse them out of the proposed bond.
So this is hitting fund balance
It
presently?
is not.
Not.
They have reallocated some funding from another capital item,
Okay,
so that it's budget neutral at the moment.
okay.
And that,
That's coming out of equipment and going into vehicles?
yes, sir.
Okay. But the intent is when and if the bond issuance happens, this 89,000.
We'll stick it back in
goes
equipment.
back into equipment.
Yes, sir.
Do we have an up-to-date list of items to be reimbursed?
A mostly up-to-date list.
Okay,
The biggest single chunk is the police vehicles. And then there was a piece of fire equipment that is almost, it was $40-something thousand. There's a couple of, most of these are odds and ends that we have to buy it now or we can't get it type things. And then, of course, the risers at the Civic Center.
LPRF?
LPRF, yes, sir.
I'm just gonna run a hypothetical here.
Okay.
I'm sure later in the agenda, you've got some discussion on a debt update.
It's not much of an update, but I'll give you, yes,
Okay,
sir.
so with that comment, we move into next calendar year.
Mhm.
We're continuing these debt discussions and the vehicle that we're gonna use and,
Mhm.
will the police building / equipment line item, will we have to fund that at a later date? Let's say we get 2 months down the road.
Mhm.
I'm not sure what exactly comes out of this.
There was, that particular one was set aside for some boiler repairs at the police department,
Okay.
which they haven't completed yet.
Are they gonna need that for the winter? That's kind of the question I'm,
That's what I'm,
okay.
we may be finding somewhere else to put that, to bring that money from at that time.
Yeah.
Help me understand. We've paid 40, here's 89, and then we lease vehicles.
When we purchased these, I believe.
Yeah, the vehicles were purchased, way back, I can't remember when the purchase order was issued, but it was way back in FY '25. And the first round of them were delivered before the end of FY '25, and the second round were delivered after the end of FY '25 into FY '26. And some of these funds are to outfit those cars so they can be used.
Okay.
Or some of those cars, some of them are outfitted differently.
Do you know when they expect delivery on these?
I do not. I know the vehicles are, actually, they may be done.
I know they've received at least most of it.
The invoice date on this is 11/30. The due date is 11/30.
Oh, so they have vehicles in hand, they've done this work,
I think so, yes, sir.
okay.
Just to hype the control mechanism that's in place slightly. In the
They
old,
went to pay.
in the old system, this would have just been paid.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah.
And then,
This would have been a month 12 adjustment.
right, they sent the invoice down to AP. AP says, you don't have a purchase order for this. Well, we had one last year. Oh, no, you don't. And so they went to make a purchase order, and it told them, you don't have any money. And so they were like, what are we gonna do? And so we've been having a conversation since November 1st about this. Because I told them, I said, you're not gonna take a budget amendment to council that's not budget neutral. And if you are, you're gonna sit beside me and explain it.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Thank you.
it's exactly what I said, right, Ron?
That's right.
Here, I'll just share mine. And this isn't as sizable as some of the costs that we've talked about that are to be paid. You know, I would hate to get to the end of this fiscal year and we're out, we've had all these to be paids and we're further reducing the fund balance.
So when this is reimbursed, you will end up with quite a bit more cash in the general fund than you presently have right now.
Right.
So that's, I'm looking forward to it. The way that we're handling spending right now, it is very controlled, Paul.
Yeah.
We are aware.
Well, I think it's good. I would just hate to get, next month, we see an $89,396 budget amendment from equipment to redo the boiler because everybody's cold,
Right.
And it's like, we're just kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Well, there is, that's 100% true. The flip side of that is, the flip side.
I don't get paid for this.
Yeah.
The flip side to that is, one of the things that we have not done as a city in sometime in recent years is made hard choices.
Yeah.
And this may force us to make some hard choices at some point.
But that's where
Right,
my fear is that we have to make some real hard choices.
right. There were several places that they could have taken these funds from,
Okay.
and we gave them a couple of options. They could get it from anywhere as far as I was concerned, but
This is where they-
I identified several places that there were available funds, and they said,
Okay.
let's get it from here. And
Okay.
so,
All right.
appropriate way to get it from here, or do you think it's from somewhere it will be better?
This is fine. If we need to, if this becomes an issue, there's somewhere else they can pull from. There's a couple of different places. It just depends on what they need first or what they need at all this year. They budgeted for that boiler, but I'm not sure they're gonna complete it this year. We'll see. I'm comfortable with this.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion second. All in favor? Or first, any discussion, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, revenue items, city stickers and enforcement.
I want to provide some context before you get going.
Go for
We sell about 59,000 city stickers, which generates about $1.3 million in revenue. Using some napkin math, we can estimate that there are somewhere between 60 and 70,000 vehicles inside the city limits. That's about 30,000 households. If you average 2 vehicles per household, that's 60. If you add 10 or 15% for commercial vehicles, you get to, up to 70 potentially. So if that,
Yeah.
do you think, does that agree with kind of what you've done?
That's matching up with my numbers, so
Okay.
check Department of Revenue, they estimate about that many.
Okay,
So that's what, help me with my math there, so if you had 70,000 on the high end.
10,000 times 25,
Right.
yeah.
So I guess the purpose of this discussion, there were a number of items that were kind of picked out that are existing revenue streams that we want to make sure we're maximizing. And make sure that, one, I know as somebody, I just bought a car and they say, hey, do you want a city sticker? That the dealer asks you that. But there's nobody sitting there telling you gotta have it at that point. If you go down to the courthouse, depending on my experience there, sometimes they'll ask you, do you need one? Sometimes they won't. If you're just going for renewal on a registration, they're gonna give you whatever you had for the last year. The purpose of this conversation was just to talk a little bit about, there was some discussion at the end of last year's budgeting season about options to generate more revenue. My thought is to start having these discussions a lot earlier, rather than in May and June.
Yeah.
And so these were some easier, these 2 items were kind of easier targets to start having those discussions. And I was hopeful that the police would be here. To me, it's really a policy-driven thing at this point, to make sure we're maximizing that. My thought was, if you get pulled over and you don't have a city sticker and you're a city resident, it's just an auto ticket. It's just one of those things that's just written, like, hey, go get your city sticker. It's a $50 fine, that's a municipal fine, and you go get a sticker and you show up to court and show that you got it, and it's done. And that'll get people in the pattern of knowing. I hear, and it's kind of anecdotal, but I do hear from people that are like, I don't buy a city sticker. No one's ever talked to me about that.
Well, one thing I want to say is it's 2025. And when I go online to renew my tags, it's the honor system and they have my address.
Right.
I mean, it should not, like,
It should automatically make
Yeah.
you buy one.
it's like I don't have a choice.
So,
But it's a click, it's a drop down. Do you want a city sticker or not? I have to actually click that and they have my address and that's a computer program. And so, that seems
so
Is that
ridiculous.
is that a county software program?
Yes,
or-
that's
Yes.
kind of part of this, is
Yeah.
that the county handles this when you go to get your tags, but they remit those back to us, correct?
yeah, so I had a couple of conversations after we began talking about this. First of all, the people that I talked to that buy their city sticker, they said sometimes they'll say, do I need a city sticker? And the clerk will tell them it's optional.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, in Gibson County, if you have to register your vehicle with the city and the clerk's office is handling that, they will sell you one without one the first year. The second year, you got to pay 2. They collect it the second year. Because the assumption is you may not know the first year. Do you see? I mean, and if you try to buy one online and don't purchase a city sticker, they will not sell you one next year. They'll send it back to you and say, sorry, you can't do this. they also send a list of, and I don't know how they do this, but they send a list of people that they thought should have bought a city sticker that didn't buy one every month. Now, I don't know how they do it, but I mean,
Well, that's fairly easy if we've got the registration
yeah,
information.
these people didn't buy one, and so,
Yeah,
But at the same time, if you can produce that list, why can't you just force the behavior on the front end?
well, the county uses a piece of software, it's not Progress, I can't remember who makes it, for that Tennessee County Clerk website. And it was both incredibly advanced when they brought it out and is no longer, that advanced.
No,
I'm just real proud that I can pay for my vehicle registration online.
me too.
Okay.
But could we,
Sir?
could we even make it mandatory if you can't get one without the other one?
Well, that's what I want to say is what our agreement, we need to possibly see what our agreement with the county, with the clerk's office is. I'm sure at some point we signed a memorandum of understanding or something about what the commission structures were gonna be and what they did, and so it probably wouldn't hurt to see what that is.
Yeah, if they showing city address, we're not gonna say you want without the other one, so you want.
That's right. You
won't
gotta
either
get
one
the
of them.
sticker.
You gotta get the
Yeah.
sticker, if you live within the city limits.
Part of the problem when other folks have done this is if it says road, generally that's not in the city, and if it says street, it is, but in fact, there are people that live on something road in Jackson, and
Again, it's the internet, and it can.
I'm
tell
agreeing with you, Dave.
You know what I mean? Like,
But as far as their database, I don't know that it has the ability to do that. So,
I mean, I would love, I wanna just check and see.
I know.
Don't let them get one without the other one. If you get,
yeah,
and you go get your, city stick, get both of them. If you can't, you're not gonna get either one, so.
So, basically, no city in the state of Tennessee working with the system from the state is, if they have a city sticker or a wheel tax, there is no way the state lines that up to where,
I'm not aware of one. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist, and I really find it hard to believe that it doesn't exist, but when we've gone through and helped some other entities do this, it is very much a manual process on the part of the clerk that's actually processing the thing. You live in the city, you have to have a city sticker.
Yeah.
There's nothing on there that says it, there's nothing on their registration that says that they are a city resident, that's not, as far as I can tell. Now, there may be more advanced systems or people have better ways of doing this, but that's my experience when we've done some research for other people.
I think the best case scenario is there's an option to what you're speaking to, is that it's mandatory.
Yeah.
Next best is having a conversation on what our agreement is with the clerk's office. And, that can be a discussion too, is, hey, we want to make sure that we're getting what we need to get out of this.
I just renewed
Not
my
people avoiding it.
my car. And I want to think that it would not let me proceed until I bought the city sticker.
Now, if you buy a new car, you check a box when you send that in to get your tags, and it says, do you want a city sticker or not? If you go down to the clerk's office, they'll just ask, do you want a city sticker, and you can answer yes or no.
I did mine online, my renewal online.
Yeah, you've got to do the drop down on the renewal. But it should just,
I've never
once you
tried,
lock
I've
it
never tried
in,
to not do it. I don't know. Maybe next time I'm gonna try to not do it and see what happens.
YOLO.
Yeah. Let it ride, $28, and be like,
Great duty next time.
that's right, yeah. Yeah. So we're suggesting that we think there's as much as $700,000 to $800,000 to $900,000 unrealized in city stickers.
Probably 250 to 300,000.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's before the commission.
yeah, because they get a cut out of that for running it. But
God bless America.
the conversations that we had was, before we have discussions about increasing any of this, because there were discussions last year about bumping it to 50.
Right.
Let's make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing before we go back to that. And
Because if not, then the only people you're penalizing are the ones who are actually doing what they're supposed to be
that's
doing.
right, that's right, that's right.
That's a good word.
So if we, I guess we got some conversations that we gotta have on that one.
You got that, Ron?
Yep.
Okay.
The other was building and engineering cost recovery, and I know there's been some discussions on this. Stan, thank you for joining us. This was another one that Nathan had brought up at our last budget meetings last year, and one that I think it's better to have those discussions now rather than as we're closing out the budget season.
Do I remember it was $1,200 that we brought in? Was that,
Well, that's a different one.
okay.
Different list.
That's a different one that we may talk about next
Oh, that's the
month.
vacant building
That's the
thing.
vacant
Yes.
building one. But you gave Stan some insight into where this is going.
Yeah.
But, but on cost recovery for building permits, engineering fees, do we see, I guess the broader question is how are we fair in that? Are we recovering our costs in that regard, or?
I believe the building department is covering, but there's been discussions about fees in general, and, I think there's some adjustment that could be made in those fees. I just wanna do the research, because, you know, that's always been a, sort of an argument, or not an argument, but a discussion about, you know, making sure the fees are at the right level, but not where you know, it runs counter against your development.
Correct.
Plus, you know,
There's a balance.
You know, you don't wanna beat your developers up because they are bringing tax revenue in and all those things, so you wanna balance that. And so, I think there's some adjustment that could be made on the building permit fees. I think there's adjustments that could be made on planning and zoning fees, because, you know, like rezonings are $200. Well, looking at comparative cities, I mean, I've seen them as high as $1,500. I mean, not to say we wanna go crazy, but, we just need to see the balance, because some of the areas that we see, like zoning letters. Zoning letters used to be, okay, send me a letter, tell me what my zoning class is. That's not hard, I can look it up, send you a letter. Now they wanna know they give you a sheet, a form, that they wanna know everything that's ever happened on that property. Well, you know, that takes time. And right now, they don't pay you for that. And so, I think we've started trying to recover some of that, but, I think there are things like that where we're spending time on it, that we could recoup that. You know, some of the other areas that I've thought about are, you know, like, you know, with annexation, we don't charge anything. But these ads that we have to put in the paper, because the state law requires that we run the plant service, we run the map showing the annexation area, all those things, you know, it could run $1,000. Well, you know, somebody says, I wanna be annexed. Well, you know, it's in our best interest to have them annexed, request it, because again, they changed the annexation laws, so we can't initiate annexation. We have to, for them to request it. Well, if we don't get them at the time that they're interested in being in the city, then we're barred forever. If they get sewer service, we're barred forever from annexing them, because they wouldn't wanna be annexed. They've got, and that was the issue that we had back in the late 80s and early 90s, is that we had all these fringe developments with all utilities and all the benefits of being in the city without being in the city and paying their fair share in terms of tax revenue. So that's where we started trying to look at areas that demanded urban type services, you know, densities that required full-time fire department or police protection. So, you know, it's about tax equity, because if we don't infuse our tax base with newer development, then our older development is decreasing in value, and then the tax equity across the board for everybody gets heavier to bear.
Right.
Because the new development's not helping to pull up the values of the older properties. So we have looked at that in times past. I think that we just need to do it in a research kind of way, so that we can defend whatever increases we make. We just don't hear this great pushback, oh, you're just trying to gain money.
Yeah.
When we're really not. Now, you know, there are sometimes that, you know, that our fees may be adequate, but, I see some areas, you know, where they could be, adjusted.
But that's where that's where I'd kind of seen this as well, is not going exorbitant, but going where you're covering the time that you and staff are putting into it. You know, where this, whatever fees we're bringing in, at least cover and pay for the time. So if you're writing a zoning letter, I don't see any issue with charging for the time for the zoning letter.
And subdivision.
Subdivision,
review
right.
And all the things, because again, you just wanna make sure, I don't think everything would ever reach the point of self-sustaining. But you could get closer than we are now, because there's some things we do because it benefits us to do them, and so we sort of give a break. Because you mentioned the vacant buildings. You know, there's been this question, all along of whether, you know, there's one group of people that's, that say, if Tennessee Code annotated does not say that something's enabled, then it's not enabled. Well, a vacant building registry is not a enabled aspect in the state law. So we haven't pushed, you know, for recovery in that area. That's why you don't see much revenue. Now, the other reason you don't see much revenue is we hadn't had to push because that mechanism has made people do the things that exempt them from paying the fee. Like I'm either actively marketing my building, or I'm doing some renovations to my building or something of that nature. But in the last 2 years, I would say, or 3 years, we haven't really needed that tool because we're seeing a lot of properties that currently were not being used. We're seeing them being renovated, and so I talked to the mayor a little bit about this, and he's talked about whether the light, you know, we've been doing it for about 5 years now, whether that tool is necessary anymore.
That's the discussion I was hoping to have at some point was, is it necessary? Because right now it's not fair. It's not equitable. You've got one person paying it and everybody else isn't.
Right.
And you've got, you know, this building over here off of Royal Street in Chester that's fallen in, and a roof caved in on it.
Yeah.
It's clearly vacant.
Yeah.
It's never paid.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff, like, as I go around and I see the building on Royal and Main Street, that old motel or apartment, I don't think it's ever paid.
Yeah, that's
And they're-
another project that's hung up in some legal,
That's right. But it's a
process.
tool I see to be able to put further leverage on these types of things, to get them torn down, remediated, invested in, whatever direction it's gotta go. And at the same time, you know, I remember those arguments about it. It was, this is gonna give us access from the fire department to come in and do safety checks. When we had the kid fall down at Venus Mill, and there was all those talks about that. So that may be a subsequent discussion for
yeah,
another month.
it's
but-
just something to talk about. It's a huge logistical,
Oh, yeah.
sending all these out and then
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to get them to submit the information and then, trying to recover, you know, but in most cases, like I said, we built it to where they could do certain things to exempt themselves from the fee. But again, that's a topic that we can visit, and talk
Well,
about.
what about on Crestview Apartment?
Yeah.
We removed the asbestos. You did all the work for years, and it was now torn down. And there was discussion about, well, who owns the property after that? Who owns the property after that?
Still owned by the same property owner.
How do we recoup any of our expenses?
Well, in most cases in the past, it's liens, it's demolition liens that you place
Yeah.
against the property. And then, but, you know, we found in some cases, in a lot of cases, the lien process was not beneficial because
To the city.
you were,
Right.
in terms of getting recouping, because those liens were attached to the property. If they didn't care anything about the property, you wouldn't have been in there tearing it down
Right.
anyway.
Right.
But then the property just sits there, and then they don't pay the taxes either, and then it gets in a tax sale, and then they wipe all those liens away anyway.
Just to sell it.
If it becomes jointly owned, they go away. So, you know,
So-
that's,
When does the property become city and county owned, or county owned?
the only, now, we are exploring some other processes, you know, like Neighborhood Preservation Act, processes, where you can approach the property, through another process, and you attack the property, not the individual. And that becomes, you know, there's a receivership that can come into play, where you get a receiver that takes over the property, and then, you know, and then they maintain it, and then, you know, if for some reason, you know, nothing ever happens, you know, in terms of the owner, then the receiver can end up with the property and can then do something with it. But we're, you know, that process is a process we have available to us, but it's new, and we're new to us, and we're trying to walk that out and see what the
I wanna get
path
back
is.
on track, and I got a
Is
question to ask.
there something to where the county becomes the owner of the property, it's not us after our expense?
The only time that the property becomes either city or county is if, sometimes they can become city only if they go through environmental court and they surrender the property. When it comes county and city, the only time that happens is if it goes to a tax sale, nobody bids on the tax amounts that's due on it, so the city and county basically take possession and then pay themselves, for the property. And then the county can then sell it, and then recoup.
On the cost recovery, can we work, we have some discussions next month about whatever research you're able to kind of, is a month a long enough timeline?
And let me ask, can I ask three real quick questions too? Do we have standard development fees that exceed $250?
I'm sure we do, yeah.
Public chapter
Based on
one,
the acreage of the property, you know, the development.
public chapter 140.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're asking.
Since the General Assembly passed a new law this year that said development fees in excess of $250, you have to have a justification for the fee. Makes perfect sense. I think we could justify a lot more, I think, on some of these things. But that's a process. My point in saying this, Paul, is this is a process we're gonna have to go through anyway for fees that will exceed that. So this is potentially a good way to jumpstart that.
Good, okay.
So,
So when a developer comes to you, is there like a buffet, like I need a letter, well, there's a price tag with that letter? or I need
like a
letter.
buffet.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just kind of as needed. Like if I need a letter from him, typically it would be, I'd send something to planning, say I need a zoning letter on this, and they would send me something back, or we would work together to kind of draft something up to the needs of the developer.
Along with an invoice?
No, to this point,
Because
he's
right
right,
now,
there is no
we're just
invoice for that.
sending it to them.
But that's something that.
As a service.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a service, right?
Those things can be long.
But again, we could, I mean, whether it's OpenGov or whether it's Tyler, or, you know, we can build those things into the OpenGov system like now, or where you go online, you
It could
submit
be
it.
the same as like getting a permit,
And you attach the zoning letter, and you just, it generates an invoice.
doing
I
a
mean,
flat, same.
those things are, you know, it's just, I think there needs to be, you know, a sort of a little bit of research on what other comparable cities are charging for things, so that so we can justify that we're not just, in trying to enrich ourselves, we're
Yeah.
actually trying to cover the cost.
That's right. You had a couple more questions?
No, except that a comparative to another city may not be what they're looking for if they ever come asking for it, you know, but
Well, again, it's, that's sort of the general rule of things, the way we look at things. But again, I know apples, you know, cities can be like apples and oranges. They do different things, and they use different technologies to do things. And ultimately, I know, like, public records request, we figure the time that it takes, and we use our hourly rates, and you can do things like that. But again, that's something that we would just have to, research and look at and come back. But, we can do that, it'll just take a little bit of, we might not be able to do it a month,
Well,
especially,
would you be willing to come back
especially the
next
month of the
month
holidays.
and just come back next month and just kind of give an update on where we're at? That way we can just keep this ball progressing. ball moving.
I did grin when he said that the city's enriching itself.
Yeah, I don't think that's.
I don't know of a thing that pays for itself.
All right. That takes care of both of those.
Okay. Next item, thank you for those.
Is that all y'all need from me?
Yes, sir, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Discuss and adopt a budget priority matrix rubric and discuss implementation.
All right, I'll try to be cognizant of your time here. You've got a couple of different sheets in your packet there. One is a revised scoring sheet. Nathan and I met last week or the week after.
I don't know.
Okay, it's been a blur for me too. I added a couple more fields into this, just department request information that's kind of specific to what they're requesting on, and took off some information that was at the bottom. And then I've kind of developed a rubric definition that you can go by for each category that gives that information on what constitutes a 0 through 3 score for each one of the scoring items. And I also created like kind of an FAQ for this, it's kind of a first read through if you're curious on what we're doing this, why we're doing this, and how it would be implemented. Talking to Nathan whenever we did was what the first pilot of this looks like, and I think we settled on doing a smaller group of kind of the administration, the mayor's office,
City Hall,
HR, non-capital using, so operating functions of the city within City Hall. So I tried to get these together because I knew just sending out the scoring sheet would have caused a litany of questions. So I put a little FAQ together and these definitions. This is a working document. I'm hopeful that we get some feedback on this from this pilot group that we can adjust as we get that feedback back. But this, I think, gives some good general information on why, who, and where we intend to implement this.
When will we get that information back from the pilot group?
Well, we talked about maybe doing this in December, so maybe at our January meeting,
That'd be good.
And we might,
maybe even at the December
we
meeting.
might do a work session if we get information quickly
Yeah.
enough.
That way we can continue to refine this and roll it out to the city as a whole. My hope was that we could adopt this in the form it is today, and proceed with it just formally. I know we've talked about it for 2 or 3 meetings now. If you recall last meeting, for those of you that weren't able to join us, we added one criteria, that's alignment with existing planning. And so you can see that it's number 9 on the quick reference. And that helps us align with any plans that we might have, be it a public works plan, the city's master plan, a parks and rec plan. There's dozens of them out there. I'm available for any questions.
Discussion.
I guess you're looking for a motion to adopt this too, ultimately.
Yeah, I make a motion to
Okay.
adopt.
Second.
Motion second. Any other discussion?
So back up, should we caveat the motion with approving this, but also basically stating that this is a working document, that after the test group, we may need to come back for some more revisions
Yeah, in its pilot form.
in the pilot form?
Yeah.
Right.
Let's approve it in a pilot form, I guess.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Well, I mean, basically, what we were hoping for is that the budget committee would say, yes, we would like to try to use this, and this is what you're,
Yes.
Yeah.
this is what you're voting.
With the understanding that this will continue to be
Yes,
refined.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah, I like that.
This seems so helpful.
I'm hopeful that it's helpful.
It's a lot of vowels there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Larry
So-
said, I'll let you vote. and then we'll take it back.
No, that may, motion and, there's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Larry said, we'll all be laughing come next year. And I said, I hope we're not laughing at it. I hope we're enjoying the fruits of all this.
You don't like it?
No, he does. Yeah, yeah.
Now the exciting debt update.
So we sent out an RFP for some potential funding facilities, as they say. And primarily looking at bond anticipation notes or possibly PBA with like a conduit of some sort. And we received those responses today, some of them, yesterday, and I just literally got the summary from PFM 10 minutes before we got in here, so I haven't really had a chance to look at it. We did receive submissions from 6 or 7 different agencies, which is good because it means that this is attractive to them. The interest rates were, all of them were competitive. Some of them, the terms were more or less onerous. And so we're going to have a meeting with PFM and Bass, Berry & Sims. I'm going to later either tomorrow or next week to try to go through and figure out which of these would be the best choice if we were going to choose one of them. And so I'm hoping to have some information to you that is digestible by the next meeting. And I'll certainly, to be honest, depending on where we go, we may ask you to meet before your next meeting. So
Could you share the information you got with the group?
yeah, after we get it in a digestible format, yes, sir.
So from what I'm gathering, what they sent you were, here are the different financing options that we would have. Here's a bond, here's a capital outlay note, here's a
They're all
bond anticipation note, so on and so forth, right?
right, and it's some of these groups have provided different sets of terms, and so trying to get those so you can compare them apples
I
to
see what
apples.
you're saying, yeah,
That's what we're working on now.
okay.
So
That would be helpful for us to.
you're
see.
I mean, when we talk about it, you're gonna have it.
Okay,
But we're also gonna have a recommendation based on what we think we can do.
okay,
So,
Okay.
all right.
so, because really it was funny because I got JP Morgan submitted, which made me happy, because they've been in and out of Jackson. There's a couple of, some of y'all may bank with, I don't know. Anyway, they're commercial folks out of Nashville had been here, and they sent some things, but there are some really strange things in their terms and then their ongoing disclosure requirements that I'm like, I love the rate, but I don't really know if I want to sign up for that, you know? I mean, and so it was fun. I mean, it was good that we got the responses that we got, so, but we'll get that parsed and get it out to you.
Okay.
Tyler Munis?
Well, unfortunately, no. We are still working on, with Tyler to produce a delinquent property tax file to send the Chancery Court clerk. The upshot is that it's not a huge sum of money, but we can't begin collecting in Chancery until we can send them this stuff. And I said, can I just stick this in an Excel spreadsheet? They're like, no, it has to be in this format. I'm like, okay. I finally emailed a software manager, and he rattled some bushes, but we're still working on that. One of the upshots is that we're working on implementing what they call an image cache letter. Those of you who've been in banking may understand some of that, but right now we scan a check, your form of payment. If it's not cash, we scan that at the window, and that is stored as part of the transaction information. And in fact, if we print you a copy of a receipt, you see a copy of the check that you wrote at the bottom, which is really cool, okay? One of the things that we should be able to do, Well, okay, then after that, at the end of the day, they close their batch, and then they scan all the checks they've got and send them to the bank. They scan the check twice. They scan it in Tyler, and they scan the check on the check scanners provided by First Horizon. They should be able to scan the check once. And that's what we're getting to the point that we can do. It's gonna cost us $400 a year, but they won't have to scan the check but once. I think it's a no-brainer. We're already remotely processing checks, like I said, but this will eliminate the need to do it twice. If those of you have looked at REST and Access, I think some people in your office did. It's a little confusing, isn't it, Paul?
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah.
Thanks for your help in navigating that.
Yeah, trying to get those figured out, trying to tweak that up a little bit. REST and Access is the payment portal that you can pay your commercial garbage, real estate, and personal property, which, by the way, they separate personal property and real property into two different things. And you guys all know the difference between real property and personal property. I would venture that the majority of the people that pay tax in this jurisdiction do not know what the difference between real property and personal property is. Personal property, what's my personal house?
Not commercial.
So trying to get the verbiage there so that they can make some sense.
So remind me, do I pay personal?
You pay real property,
Yeah.
You pay real property.
Now, when I had a business, I had to pay.
personal and
taxes
real
on-
property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm thinking, do I have to pay on my couch?
No, no. Now, there are several minor tweaks. They're minor because they're not impacting our operations, but some of them are major to get them working. That we're still perfecting, including how to import a clerk and master file. Because when clerk and master sends us a check, as opposed to some clerk having to sit there and enter 70 or 80 checks, we should be able to get a file from them and say, here they are. Can't do that right now. Tax relief payment files, same thing. You get hundreds of these things in a batch. Right now, there's no way to import that information. And then rollback assessments, and then just trying to figure out ways to eliminate a lot of these manual things that we didn't used to have to do. And it's just odds and ends. But overall, and I'm sorry, that sounded all very negative. Overall, like I can tell you right now how much property tax we've collected today to the penny right now. Like,
So are these hurdles, let's call them hurdles, are they on Tyler's end, or is it the software that it's coming from, or the data package it's coming from that won't interact with Tyler? Or is it some of both?
Some of it is questions that we answered incorrectly 3 years ago.
Okay, all right.
In setting up Tyler?
Some of it is the fact that after they think that they've got you going, you get less immediate attention for issues that are non-business critical.
Yep.
If the whole thing was down, they'd have people on the phone dialed in. If I can't import 70 property taxes, they don't care.
Sure.
They care, but we're just one of another case that they're working.
Yeah.
And because of our long implementation arc, they were so ready to be done that when we were done, we were.
Yeah.
And now this is all odds and ends. It's odds and ends. Yeah. The fatigue. Yeah. I mean, a lot of it has to do with the information that we supplied them. In some cases, it appears that we didn't understand the question that was asked.
Okay.
Things like that.
Okay.
But we're getting there.
All right.
So every day's one more thing. We check it off.
Sure.
So
Sure.
that's all I've got.
Cool. Thank you for that update.
Move we adjourn.
I think we're all in favor.
I got another meeting in an hour, so. Are you coming to that? Okay. Do you need copies?